Hi, welcome to How Was I Supposed to Know That? I'm your host, Bernard Williams. I'm also the founder and managing partner of a small business law firm called Company Counsel. At Company Counsel, we work with small companies that are growing and scaling, have a lot of legal issues going on, but don't have anyone in-house who can handle those issues. That's where we come in. And one of the things we'd like to help our clients with is the M&A process. Sometimes we're on the buy side, sometimes we're on the sell side, but we'd love to get involved in that process and really add whatever value we can from a legal perspective. One of the conversations that I often have with my clients, however, is about the importance of really assembling a team of experts, a team of people who really specialize in distinct components of the M&A process. We as attorneys certainly play our role, but we're just one slice of the pie. There are other professionals that are important to have involved as well. One of those such professionals is having an excellent business broker in your corner. And that brings me today to the real privilege that I feel in having my guest on the podcast, Hitash Patel with TransWorld Business Advisors is just an excellent, meticulous, successful business broker that I've come to know very well over the past couple of years. And I'm really pleased to welcome him here on the podcast. Welcome, Hitash.
Thank you, Bernard. That was a good introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the check is in the mail, you said, right?
Yep. On the way.
Great, excellent. So I introduced you as a business broker, but maybe you can unpack that a little bit and explain for the audience and me what a business broker actually is and what you do.
Yeah, sure. No, thank you. So as you mentioned, Bernard, buying, selling businesses or any transition or succession planning in the business world is not handled by one person, or it's a team effort, right? As you mentioned before. So there's everybody's role to play. There's an attorney there, there's a CPA there, there's the process guy, the operations guy, and then there's a role of a business broker or M&A advisor also in there. And everybody has a different role to play. Where our role comes into the play is once the business has been prepared well for the exit, and let's say we have to find a buyer for that particular business, that's where, with our established relationships with the previous buyers or companies we know of that they're looking to acquire some more business and grow through the acquisitions, we reach out to them and try to find which buyer would be a perfect match or good match for this particular instance. And then we coordinate all those things, takes care of the communications, takes care of the negotiations, along with other team members in the process.
So is your role to assist on the buy side or on the sell side?
Yeah, it could be either side. So in my personal practice, I would say 8 out of 10 times I'm representing the sellers on the sell side. But every now and then, as I mentioned before, like sometimes the companies or the smart buyers who are looking to grow inorganically, acquiring another business is the fastest way and the best way to grow their business. And then during those times, if they are very strategic and they have, instead of doing their legworks by themselves, they would reach out to a person like me, and we can help them on the buy side. So I would say 2 out of 10 times, some of my engagements are on the buy side as well. So.
Are there ever any scenarios where you're a dual broker, where you're representing both the buyer and the seller in the same transaction?
So not really. They're pretty clear that whom I'm representing at that time. So let's say, for example, if I'm representing on the sell side, they already know that who is my client. So even though, let's say, the buyer comes without any kind of another advisor, or we make sure that they understand that, yeah, we'll be helping you to throughout this transaction, we'll help you out in whatever manner. But at the end of the day, my client is on the sell side, so they would know who my client is. And sometimes in the brokerage world, it becomes you can't identify whether the person paying the fees is the one you're representing, because sometimes the co-broker is a situation where the brokers, whether buy side or sell side, they are being paid by the sellers, right? So, but in being fees on the side, you keep it aside, but it has nothing to do with whom I'm representing. It's from the very beginning, we let them know that I'm looking out for the best interest for my client whom I'm representing.
That's interesting. So there are times when you might be representing the buyer, but you're being paid by the seller.
Yeah, it depends on sometimes buy side advisor, we always get paid by the buyers because they come and they say, look, we'll pay your fees. So we are pretty upfront when I'm reaching out to the sellers, saying that our fees are getting paid by the buyers. So you don't have to worry about dishing out some extra fees, for those purposes. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And does that, and I'm sure I know the answer to this, but I've got to ask the question. Does that influence the way that you approach the work?
No, not really. Yeah, and it should not. And that's where the ethics and what for if you've been doing it for a long time, you can really see and people value whether it's buyer or seller. At the end of the day, these transactions are complicated. There are a lot of different uh, factors involved in there, and at the end of the day, the clients, the buyer and the seller, want the transaction to be done right. Somebody wants to sell it, somebody wants to buy it. We are helping there to facilitate that and want to make sure that at the end of the transaction or within those process, everybody is making an informed choice, right? At the end of the day, my goal is to make sure uh, that whoever is making that choice, they are understanding what they are making that choice for.
Right.
So yeah.
So let's imagine that I'm a businessman. We don't have to imagine that part, but let's imagine that that I want to sell, and you and I cross paths. You and I were having a conversation. At what point should our conversations really begin in earnest in the process? Should it be, right? Well, I mean, I'll leave it at that. At what point should I bring you into the conversation?
Excellent question, Bernard. Excellent question. A lot of people don't realize when they should start thinking about the exit, but the more prepared you are, right? One of the really smart entrepreneur once told me that, Hitesh, what's the best, do you know what's the best time to start thinking about exit? So I said, maybe 3 years, 5 years before you plan to exit. And he's like, no, the best time to plan for the exit is when you form the company, when you start the company. So, and again, it goes back to because when you're running the operations, when you're running the business, it's a different way of handling the day-to-day process, your financials, everything. But when you're looking to exit out of the business, you should be thinking from the perspective of the buyer, the potential buyer who is going to take over that business, right? So how that needs to be uh, operated, how that needs to be organized in such a way. So to answer your question, I would say, let's say we come to know each other, and my first question normally would be like, so Bernard, uh, what's your goal? Like you started this company. What are you when are you thinking of as a succession planning? Like, do you have kids or relatives you want to pass this business to, or uh, do you see this business going to your employees, or do you see this business being sold this to like a third party? These are the kind of options I'm trying to gather the information about. And then one very, very important question comes into the play is, do you know what's your business worth right now? Right? Like, I would say 7 out of 10 business owners have no idea what's their business is worth. And it's nothing because they don't want to know it, because they never found a need for that, right? There was never a need to find out what the business is worth. But as the business becomes more sophisticated, the more higher revenue, more number of employees, then all these you're hiring the management team for your business to run the daily operations and all. During those times, uh, when you want to increase your business credit, you go out to the bank and you want to find out, hey, so up to a certain extent, bank doesn't ask about your business valuations and all, because you have been having a relationship, so they keep on increasing your line of credit, and That's how you work with your bankers and all.
Right.
But nobody ever thinks about from the perspective of what if I want to plan my estate, like, and I'm sure in your a lot of your clients, you're planning their estate, and during that time, you need to find out what's the business worth, because most of the business owners, I would say, majority of their assets is tied to their operating business, basically. So
So
yeah,
Hitesh, should I get my business valuation and then go to you, or should I go to you and then go and get the business valuation?
yeah, either that's a great question, and either option is okay. But what I would say is professionals like me, a business broker or M&A advisor, if you are if you just reach out to us, we'll be happy to give you a quick, like an overview of the insights. You don't have to pay buku bucks for that, right? And an arm and leg for that. And we just give you an insights, like, and at the end of the really the if you look at our business valuation done, and then the insights, what you get out of that valuation are worth every penny, and then because now let's say we value your business, it comes out to be like, for example, $5 million, and you say my goal is to reach at $8 million and then exit, right? So during that time, during that exercise of finding the business valuation, we can also give you the pathway to reach at that $8 million, and who all other professionals would be involved to make sure that when the time is to completely exit out of from your business, it's worth $8 million at that time. So yeah, either option is good, but people who are into everyday transactions, market changes, uh, the the people, what kind of business they are looking for, that changes. So the multiple changes and all those things, it's a good idea to reach out to a business broker or M&A advisor to give you some insights on that, how the markets are.
So I see you've got me really intrigued by this hypothetical example that you just laid out. Can we talk through this a little bit?
Sure. Yeah.
So all right, so I come to you and you do sort of a preliminary evaluation, and we find out that my current value is $5 million roughly, and I say that's not good enough. I want to sell for 8. Right. So you identify things in the evaluation that I can do or put in place to bridge that gap between the $5 million valuation of today and the future state $8 million valuation. What are some of the things that you can tell from a valuation that would that you can use to build a strategy that you know is going to yield that result?
That's another great question, Bernard. And then in those things, you'll identify every business is different. So when you're doing assessment, you're just not looking at financials. I'm asking about their operations. I'm asking about their legal, if there was any kind of litigation or any kind of. So all those questions, it boils down to one particular number, right? At the current stage. Now you say that, okay, in 3 years, I want to reach this to $8 million. We do our reverse math, we do our forecasting, we do, and based on that, say, okay, to reach here, you need to have the sales revenue of this much. You need to have profitability of this much. So in those, when we are doing those business valuations, we identify what's the best way to make this possible. Sometimes it's just a matter of changing the prices, or finding a better vendor, or making sure you understand where your margins are, where your profitability is, and those are the insights you get out of those business valuation, the discussion of that, and from there, I'm not a coach, right? I'm a we do the assessment, we understand here, we see what's the goal, but in between, if we need coaches, sometimes it's a issue of finding the right team for the right position, right? So during those times, there are so many different professionals out there. We would connect those business owners to them. We say, look, you need to work on your legal paperwork. We need to work on your, because when the time comes and when we take this business to the buyers are becoming very selective, because there are a lot of choices. Yeah, they're willing to pay good prices, but at the same time, they want to make sure the business is prepared for sale. They can get all those insights, they can get all those data. So if those things are not well prepared, your business is not going to get good offers for your business. So
Right.
we want to make sure that everything is tight, everything is taken care of well before we take out the business to the buyers out there.
I, thank you. I appreciate this explanation, but it's occurred to me that we've been talking about valuations and kind of some ancillary concepts for a few minutes now, and the one word that has not come up yet is multipliers. And I find that interesting because when I talk to entrepreneurs, if I were talking to an entrepreneur, the word multiplier would have come up 6 or 7 times by now. That's how most entrepreneurs think that the valuations are conducted. It's how they know what their business should go for on the market. Talking a little bit about multipliers, and are they mythical? Is there something to it? Does it actually play into what you're doing with companies when they begin this sale process?
Yeah, this probably is a whole another segment for us to for us to discuss. But the way I look at it, the multiplier is, if about everything about the business, I want to bring it to, at the end of the day, I want to bring it to the risk assessment of that business, right? If if I see that the business does not have too much of risks when it transfers from one owner to another owner, right? Suddenly that multiplier for me is higher because I'm ready to take more risk on that. So again, some people would not like my definition or the way I think about the multiplier, but that multiplier number boils down to number of how much risk I'm able to. So for example, let's say a business is revolved around an owner who does everything. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Physician, they're great. Like, you don't have to go and look out for the patients. It's an everyday need, right? People come to walk into their door and they are taking care of. At the end of the day, that business is growing, all those things, but everything is revolving around that one professional, one clinicians, right? So when that business is getting sold, the risk of having the same amount of revenue and the same amount of profitability with the new doctor
Mhm.
is, the risk is much higher. It's not going to be exactly same, right? So what happens is the multiplier basically is 2 or 3. So whatever the owner's yearly profit or cash flow for that owner is, you give a multiplier of 2 or at the most 2.5, because when you calculate all the different risks and you quantify to one multiplier, that's what it comes down to, right?
Mhm.
Now the same business, if there were 2 or 3 partners within that group practice, the owner retires, the new owner comes in, and there are still 2 more doctors. So there is a relationships already with the customer. There is a risk of losing the customers is much less.
Right.
And same thing can be applied for professional practices or manufacturing, or like, let's say you're in the manufacturing business, the number one thing we look around is customer concentration. Sometimes the the manufacturing company has, let's say, 10 customers, and the 2 of the top customers is giving them 70 to 80% of the revenue. That's a big risk,
Right.
right? So then the multiplier is lower for those kind of businesses. So at the end of the day, I'm looking at like how much risks the buyer is going to face when this business is transferred from the current state to the new owner.
Mhm.
So the less number of risk it is, the higher the multiplier number it is. So even though same business, uh, and that multiplier is, you're applying that to either EBITDA number, either the cash flow number. So a lot of people talk about multiplier, but multiply to what, right? To, sometimes it's revenue, sometimes it's profit. So you need to like dig deeper and find out where that multiplier. But that multiplier number is basically, to me, it's a quantifiable number to manage the risk of transferring the business from one owner to another.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So let's getting back to my hypothetical scenario where I'm ready to sell my law firm, and let's say that I've decided that my son has no interest in taking over the business, and none of my employees want to, and I'm looking for a third party buyer. Let's say we're past the valuation point, and we've agreed on my now $8 million value because I've put the things into place that you advised me. What's next? How do you? What's the next step, and how do you help me at this point through the process?
Yeah. So Bernard, you spend like probably 10 years in your business now, and now for whatever reason, either you're relocating to another state, and now instead of this brutal winter in Pennsylvania, now you want to move to Florida or Arizona and play golf over there 24/7.
Get out of my head, Hitash.
So during that time, what you have built in this 10, 12, 15, 20 years, I need to understand. And we sit down and we spend 2, 3 hours if it's needed, half day, one day, doesn't matter. But I need to understand, like, when did you start this business? What was the journey like, and where you are? So, and the reason behind that is when buyers, they are buying the business, they are not buying just the financial statements. Say 50%, I would say, is quantitative valuation, where numbers and everything makes sense. But 50% is also qualitative. Like, they want to know the story. They want to understand what they are getting into. This business has been part of the community, so what are they getting into? So I need to understand all those things. So we gather, we synthesize, we bring a story out of this, whatever we can, summarize that, and then we call something what we call this is confidential information memorandum, SIM. Okay. So the SIM is like brochure with basically the story of the business, daily operations, the team, what a team looks like, and the financials. And now we created this small dossier, which once we identify the right buyers, where they sign proper paperwork about that they are not going to start talking about this potential sale to everybody and anybody. They're signing this. Once we vet them out and we find out that this is the right buyer, we release that information SIM material to that buyer. So that's the reason we want to sit down as a next step and understand the story behind that, and we synthesize all those things into one document, which is a good starting point for buyer to understand whether they want to move forward in this process, or they want to take a look at some other business, basically.
Now, is the identity of the company revealed in the SIM, or is that redacted?
So in the SIM, it's released. But before SIM, we send out something called teaser, where there's no company's name, you cannot pinpoint which company it is. And that's what we call teaser. And with the teaser, once they take a look at the teaser, we give a little bit of highlights of the financials. And based on that, the buyer would make a judgment whether this is a good business for them or not. And now if they want to move forward with the process, that's when they would sign the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement, and provide some kind of information about their financials, whether they can get qualified to purchase this business or not. And that's what the next process comes. And then once they get qualified, and once we feel that, yeah, this is a genuine buyer, because there are a lot of curious people out there who have, just because it's so easy to find about the business, they click, and so that vetting process is a big part of the process. And once we are sure that, yeah, they are genuinely looking to purchase a business, that's when we release the SIM material, basically, to them.
Okay. So so you as a broker, you're managing this entire process and you're handling all the communications?
Yep. Yeah. That's a big part of it, because when the owners try to sell by themselves, sometimes to smaller businesses or sometimes somebody trying to save a few bucks and then they don't want to pay the broker any kind of fees, or like they say, okay, maybe I can do this, right? That's where now you are into this uh, situation where if you are trying to handle this sale, people already know like who you are, and rather than managing the business, now you're trying to even negotiate with these buyers, trying to find out whether the buyers are correct buyers or not. So yeah, you might uh, think that you are saving some money by not paying brokers or advisors out there, but it's a short-term thinking. You have built this business for 10, 15 years. You have built something which is like really, really, there's a goodwill out there and it can be transferred and you can get, might as well again invest some money and find the best. And most of our business brokers or M&A advisors, we work on a success fee based model, right? So yeah, there might be like a initial retainer on a smaller scale, but majority of our fees are success fee based model. So if we are not able to complete the transactions, all that time, all that communication, we don't charge a single penny for that. At least I don't charge a single penny until that's been successfully sold and we found a buyer for them. So
it's amazing. So when you work with a success fee, they don't pay a dime until the business actually closes, or the transaction actually closes.
Yeah.
Is that pretty standard in the way that you operate?
Yes, for the business brokers, that's very much a standard thing, where, because it's, every business is different. There are no guarantees out there. The buyers are different. So and that's our way of like, our incentives are aligned with your goal. And there might be some brokers, some companies might charge small fees to get everything prepared, and which is those are nominal fees, but the bulk of the fees are more geared towards success fee based model, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the problems that I see a lot of times is that a business owner might want to sell. They may even be ready to sell. Maybe they're prepared to walk away psychologically and operationally, and all that's good. The question becomes, where do I find a buyer? And I know that one of the things that you're really particularly good at is finding buyers. So I mean, without revealing your secret sauce, what's your secret sauce? how do you make those connections between the prospective buyers and the sellers?
Yeah. There are several different ways we reach out to the buyers, right? There are like, I'm associated with this larger organization, which we operate as a company. We've been operating for almost 50 years now, right? So, and we are throughout the United States and a dozen other countries. And so if you have a really strong system, really strong support from the companies like ours, right? For every business which is listed by us, when we are helping our clients to sell their business, on average, we are getting 15 to 20 inquiries, and sometimes up to 200, depending on the business. And out of those like let's say on average, let's say 20 inquiries. Out of those 20 inquiries, one person purchased that business. The 19 are still out there. So we keep them informed about the other opportunities. Maybe they lost on this one, but there could be other ones. So that's how our touch points are there. We are on a major platforms throughout on the internet. If you look at, there are probably a dozen different websites, which like in the real estate world, there might be like a few websites where you're looking out what houses are for sale, right? So similar, there are a few websites which are more geared towards purchasing a business. So during those websites, that's where we would send out these teasers, which I earlier spoke about, like these are the businesses which are listed. One that, and as I said, we have like 200 plus locations throughout the United States. and all our offices are connected to one system, right? So we are talking to each other as soon as the our seller's information goes into the system. Maybe my neighboring state has buyers who's looking to relocate in this state, or my buyer is looking to relocate. So there's a lot of collaboration efforts goes into the play. And then networking, a lot of networking, a lot of trying to find out whether person is looking to, like buy a business or being a partner, or they want to be investors. So a lot of conversations. It's not a every time. It's basically a lot of efforts to find out from the people what they're looking to get into. And once we identify that, we keep them posted with the opportunities.
Great.
Yeah.
So Hitesh, the name of the podcast is How Was I Supposed to Know That? And the premise is that small business owners find that running a small company is not always as linear as we think. Lots of times we stumble, we make mistakes, we learn from them, we pick up and we go along. But from your perspective, as somebody who has handled so many transactions and has worked with so many entrepreneurs, you had to have seen people make mistakes. You had to have seen just horror stories, maybe that without revealing any names or revealing anything confidential. What can you share with our listening audience about things that maybe they wouldn't have known about, or stories of things that maybe they should be aware of so they can avoid?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. It could be all different stages. But the one common mistakes what I see among the business owners is they don't start the preparation of selling early. They wait until the business is, they see that, okay, it's either declining, or they're waiting to the last minute. There's some kind of a distress situation which is causing the sale of that business, or they want to exit out. So instead of that, I would say each and every business owner needs to think about the exit at least 2 years, 3 years before their actual exit. And at that time, don't hesitate to reach out to professionals, like who have done it multiple times. There are a lot of really good brokers out there, really, really good brokers out there. And at the same time, there are equally crappy ones too. But you need to find out like what business brokers out there, or M&A advisors, or reach out to like other of your business owners who have sold their business, and find out like how was their experience, right? But start the preparation at least 2 to 3 years before the exit is I would say the number one message I would give it to the business owners, that they need to start thinking, even though they don't want to sell it. Nothing wrong in just getting to understand what's your business worth, right? Let's go and get the business valuation done every 2 to 3 years, and it's a really good business broker. We, as a company, we generate a lot of data out of these transactions, and that's why our brokers' opinion of value report are so inexpensive. It's a pretty very insightful report what you get, which is like 30-40 pages report, and you can understand, okay, now if I need to improve my business, what all things I need to do. And so those kind of conversation, those kind of investment early on pays 10 times more when you're ready selling the business. So you are selling the business on your terms, on your schedule, rather than in a distressed situation. You build this business for, like, on average, business owners, that's their life, right? Majority of the time they spend their time in that business. Everything revolves around that business, just like kids, right? And when and when it's time to sell it, might as well give a little bit of a thought to that, and hire the professionals. Just invest in a little bit of professionals. Don't try to do this by yourself. Again, it's yeah, you think that you are saving some few bucks on the brokerage fees, but I've seen it multiple times that it pays off well for every much money what you paid. And as I said, it's a success fee based model. So why hesitate? So,
Right.
yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. So if someone's listening to this and they want to reach out, they have questions, maybe they're interested in you preparing such a evaluation, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah. So if you look at our website, our company is called TransWorld Business Advisors, and the website is tworld.com. And our phone number for me personally is 717-303 5050. So yeah, just Google TransWorld Business Advisors. We've been out there for almost 50 years now. So happy to connect and make some informed choices out there.
This has been great. This has really, really been valuable, and I appreciate your time. Any parting words before we let you go on about your day?
No, thank you, Bernard. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to reach out to your clients, and I'm happy to make any conversations if anybody needs any kind of and then we don't charge by the minute. So, but yeah, once again, thank you for inviting me here and giving the opportunity.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much for all of your advice and for all of your wisdom. He's been Patel, Bernard Williams. This has been another episode of How Was I Supposed to Know That? Thanks.
Bye-bye.